Medical disclaimer. The content of this video is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition, and always get proper treatment for serious medical conditions. Legal disclaimer. Use only legal measures to combat the virus and cooperate with government officials, first responders and healthcare workers to make the coronavirus a thing of the past and create a perfect society ASAP. Use common sense, logic and help your fellow humans if necessary, also to lower the risk of being vaccinated mandatorily ourselves and to end the pandemic as soon as possible. The objective of my video is not to slander people nor to incite or trigger people, but to do the opposite, exposing it when people are wrongly accused, and to create universal peace, world peace or just peace on earth. People are innocent till proven guilty in the court of law. One who knows of evidence must testify, not to convict anyone without a fair trial. Greetings, spear beings, greetings, supreme being. We are all the human race. Our common enemy is death. Welcome on Perfect Society. I'm Ulrich Hofman and this is the broadcast Geert Vanden Bossche, PhD's open letter to WHO important spread. So, as you can read behind me, he worked for several big vaccine companies and he also worked for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation as senior program officer. So let's first go to his website. This is geertvandenbossche.org. The official website. And let's first read the intro about Geert Vanden Bossche. And I plan to use the text-to-speech engine for that. Public health emergency of international concern. Let's see if the text-to-speech engine works.
Public health emergency of international concern: mass infection prevention and mass vaccination with leaky COVID-19 vaccines in the midst of the pandemic can only breed highly infectious variants. Read the full open letter to WHO. Watch open call key document on mass vaccination and immune escape. Response to critics. Why do mass vaccination campaigns promote dominance of selective immune escape variants? I repeat with utmost urgency my call for a public scientific debate with the WHO, qualified experts and authorities worldwide. First, do no harm. Hippocrates.
So basically that means the cure may not be worse than the disease.
Geert Vanden Bossche, DVM, PhD. Geert Vanden Bossche received his DVM from the University of Ghent, Belgium, and his PhD degree in virology from the University of Hohenheim, Germany. He held adjunct faculty appointments at universities in Belgium and Germany. After his career in academia, Geert joined several vaccine companies: GSK Biologicals, Novartis Vaccines, Solvay Biologicals, to serve various roles in vaccine R&D as well as in late vaccine development. Geert then moved on to join the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation's Global Health Discovery Team in Seattle, USA, as Senior Program Officer. He then worked with the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization, Gavi, in Geneva as Senior Ebola Program Manager. At Gavi he tracked efforts to develop an Ebola vaccine. He also represented Gavi in fora with other partners, including WHO, to review progress on the fight against Ebola and to build plans for global pandemic preparedness. Back in 2015, Geert scrutinized and questioned the safety of the Ebola vaccine that was used in ring vaccination trials conducted by WHO in Guinea. His critical scientific analysis and report on the data published by WHO in The Lancet in 2015 was sent to all international health and regulatory authorities involved in the Ebola vaccination program. After working for Gavi, Geert joined the German Center for Infection Research in Cologne as head of the Vaccine Development Office. He is at present primarily serving as a biotech/vaccine consultant while also conducting his own research on natural killer cell-based vaccines. Supportive references from the literature. Critical unresolved questions. Supportive references, quotes and documents. GeertVandenBossche.org.
So what I plan to do is read the letter, open letter to the WHO, read the full open letter to WHO, is this button here, and that's in PDF format, and perhaps also I saw a key document on mass vaccination and immune escape response to critics. I hope to be able to cover that as well. I put a link in the description to Dr. Vanden Bosche's official YouTube channel with the videos that I also made a compilation of that I haven't uploaded to YouTube yet. Perhaps I'll do another broadcast, but that's over 2 hours, the compilation of all these videos. And I want to have a disclaimer with that as well. But that's available on his channel and it's all over the internet, so that means that there's not as much urgency as with this letter, which I haven't seen online, and many people might not know that it exists. So let's read the whole letter. So for that I'm gonna switch to the PDF documents right here and then read it with the text-to-speech engine.
I've attached the slides of the keynote that I held yesterday at the Vaccine Summit in Ohio. Why should current COVID-19 vaccines not be used for mass vaccination during a pandemic? Please do have a look at them. The bottom line is that I don't see how mass vaccination campaigns would not lead to a disastrous aggravation of the COVID-19 pandemic. However, no one else seems to realize, instead, vaccinologists, clinicians and scientists are merely focusing on the positive, short-term results and impact at an individual level. Nobody seems to be looking at the consequences and risk at a human population level, which, according to my understanding, will become manifest quite soon. Why is nobody worried about immune escape whereas COVID-19 has already escaped people's innate immunity as reflected by multiple emerging, much more infectious, viral variants, most likely due to the global implementation of infection prevention measures? Vaccine deployment and the ongoing mass immunization campaigns are highly likely to further enhance adaptive immune escape, as none of the current vaccines will prevent replication/transmission of viral variants. The more we use these vaccines for immunizing people in the midst of a pandemic, the more infectious the virus will become. With increasing infectiousness comes an increased likelihood of viral resistance to the vaccines. It's not exactly rocket science, it's a basic principle taught in a student's first vaccinology class. One shouldn't use a prophylactic vaccine in populations exposed to high infectious pressure, which is now certainly the case as multiple highly infectious variants are currently circulating in many parts of the world. To fully escape selective immune pressure exerted by vaccinal antibodies, COVID-19, a highly mutable virus, only needs to add another few mutations in its receptor binding domain. I am beyond worried about the disastrous impact this would have on our human race. Not only would people lose vaccine-mediated protection but also their precious, variant non-specific, innate immunity will be gone. This is because vaccinal antibodies outcompete natural antibodies for binding to COVID-19. Even when their affinity for the viral variant is relatively low. I've alerted all responsible health and regulatory authorities, including WHO, CDC, FDA etc. and have asked to consider my concern and to immediately open the discussion about the disastrous consequences any further immune escape of COVID-19 would have. I know, of course, that current mass vaccination campaigns enjoy vigorous and worldwide support from a multitude of different parties/stakeholders. However, unless I am proven wrong, this cannot be an excuse for ignoring that mankind may currently be transforming a quite harmless virus into an uncontrollable monster. I've never been that serious about a statement I made. Univic, strictly confidential, June 2016, -1 Vaccines Summit Ohio.
So I wanted to add, natural or innate immunity comprises the inborn immune mechanisms that do not depend upon previous exposure to an antigen, ScienceDirect.com.
2021 March 1st to 3rd, 2021 Ohio, USA. Geert Vanden Bossche, DVM, PhD Independent Vaccine Research Consultant. Why should current COVID-19 vaccines not be used for mass vaccination during a pandemic? Author, Dr. Geert Vanden Bossche, non-confidential, do copy, do distribute. Univic, strictly confidential, June 2016, -2 Prophylactic vaccines are for use in a conventional prophylactic setting, not in a pandemic setting. Prophylactic vaccines should be administered before infectious exposure to ensure full-fledged protection, prevent exacerbation of disease, CFR. Ebola, ring vaccination, prevent immune escape and hence, enhanced infectiousness or even, resistance to the vaccine. Several cases of severe disease due to highly infectious variants have already occurred in young people. Several cases of fully COVID-19 vaccinated people shedding highly infectious variants have already been reported, some of which have even developed mild symptoms. Aren't these cases compelling enough to demonstrate how easily COVID-19 viruses can escape host immunity? General rule: virus replication on background of suboptimal immune response enables immune escape of highly mutable viruses. Author, Dr. Geert Vanden Bossche, non-confidential, do copy, do distribute. Univic, strictly confidential, June 2016, -3 Current COVID-19 vaccine technologies, all of them are targeted at inducing specific ABS2S protein, S1RBD, so none of them prevents viral replication if ABS are too low in concentration or.
So ABS are antibodies, and it's also here at the bottom of this page, basically ABS : antibodies. So the abbreviations are listed on the page.
Affinity, they cannot control replication of more infectious covariants and may even drive immune escape. For example, when fully vaccinated subjects are exposed to viral variants, are they safe? Yes, at the level of the individual, absolutely not. For human populations exposed to COVID-19 pandemic, are they efficacious for protecting against disease? Yes, at the level of the individual, absolutely not. For human populations exposed to COVID-19 pandemic. Author, Dr. Geert Vanden Bossche, non-confidential, do copy, do distribute. ABS, antibodies. Univic, strictly confidential, June 2016, -4 Gaps in our understanding of the natural course of viral pandemics. NACs, ag non-specific killing via natural ABS, NAbs, and NK cells provide natural immunity. Non-NACs, contract disease because of weak innate immunity, ag-specific killing, neutralization, via adaptive ABS protection, susceptible to disease when AB titers wane. Q, Y does natural, I.E, W, O human intervention. Viral pandemic comprise 3 waves. Why does second wave typically hit younger people? Why, how does the virus re-emerge to become seasonal? Weak innate immunity, adaptive immunity, Nukov waning, AB titers, disease, ag, antigen.
So perhaps it's a good idea to read this ourselves. Gaps in our understanding of the natural course of viral pandemics, NACs, Natural asymptomatic carriers refers to subjects who do not develop any clinical symptoms at all or develop at most mild disease involving upper respiratory airways only after primary coronavirus infection. Non-NACs relates to subjects who develop severe COVID-19 symptoms after primary infection. NAG stands for antigen, ABS stands for antibodies. NACs, antigen non-specific killing via natural antibodies, NABs, and NK, neutralizing killer cells, provide natural immunity. I don't know if NK stands for natural killer cells or something. What does NK stand for? So I'd have to verify that, but I presume killer cells of some type. Non-NACs contract disease because of weak innate immunity. Antigen-specific killing neutralization via, quote, adaptive, unquote, antibodies leads to protection. The Nature.com article I covered also made clear we need neutralizing antibodies, not non-neutralizing antibodies in the case of COVID-19. So that has to do also with antibody-dependent enhancement, which I've advised you all to study so that we know what we're talking about. Susceptible to disease when antibody titers wane. I have to look up titers as well. Question: why does natural that is, without human intervention, viral pandemic comprise 3 waves? Why does second wave typically hit younger people? How does the virus re-emerge to become seasonal? My theory about this is that children practically don't die from COVID-19. Almost nobody younger than 15 has died from this virus. Because old people have more antibodies to several diseases, and it may be antibody-dependent enhanced. Antibody-dependent enhancement is caused by non-neutralizing, also called suboptimal antibodies. And because children almost have no antibodies, these antibodies cannot provide access to their cells for the virus, for viral replication, the copying of the RNA into the cells. How does the virus re-emerge to become seasonal? So these are some questions, and then we can continue reading. I don't know where we left off, but perhaps it's best to start here. That button doesn't work, so then I'll just continue reading where we left off.
ABS, antibodies NACs, natural asymptomatic carriers, refers to subjects who do not develop any clinical symptoms at all, or develop at most mild disease, involving upper respiratory airways only, after primary COVID infection. Non-NACs relates to subjects who develop severe COVID-19 symptoms after primary infection. Author, Dr. Geert Vanden Bossche, non-confidential, do copy, do distribute Univic, strictly confidential, June 2016, 5 The current COVID-19 pandemic is often compared to the 1918 H1N1 influenza pandemic. Author, Dr. Geert Vanden Bossche, non-confidential, do copy, do distribute. For example, the 1889-92 influenza outbreak had 3 distinct waves, which differed in their virulence. The second wave was much more severe, particularly in younger adults. 3 waves of death. Weekly combined influenza and pneumonia mortality, United Kingdom, 1918 to 1919. The waves were broadly the same globally during the pandemic. Taubenberger J.K., Maurens D.M. 1918 Influenza, the mother of all pandemics. Emergent 2006 /12-1, 1522, cc by the current COVID-19 pandemic is often compared to the 1918 H1N1 influenza pandemic, which had 3 distinct waves over the course of a year. The proportion of influenza patients who were severely ill or died was much higher in the last 2 waves compared to the first. As major source of viral spread, non-NICs is drying up, more NICs become susceptible to disease. How does that work? Univic, strictly confidential, June 2016, -6 abrogation of viral infection in NACs, after short-lived virus replication, is mediated by innate immunity SMAs, angiotensin converting enzyme XEPT, cell surface expressed pathogen-derived motif DC, dendritic cell EC, epithelial cell MBC, memory B cell. Author, Dr. G. Vanden Bossche, non-confidential, do copy, do distribute in case C, natural killer cell. Univic, strictly confidential, June 2016, -7 short-lived ag-specific ABS suppress binding of COV by NAbs and hence, dampen innate immunity. Asymptomatic infection momentarily weakens innate immunity without providing protective adaptive immunity. Susceptibility to disease. Abrogation of viral infection at an early stage of infection is the virus' secret weapon to ensure its own perpetuation. 4. Immune escape variant OCS, original circulating strain NIV. New immune escape variant. Thin arrows, low affinity thick arrows, high affinity 8 versus 4 equals 2 to 1 8 2 versus 4 2 equals 6 versus 2 equals.
Okay, he explains this more in depth in his video on his channel. So I'm just reading the whole thing. So it can sometimes have unclear statements, but that's explained by these illustrations we're seeing here. So we're now at this part here. 8, 2 versus 4, 2 equals 6 versus 2 equals 3, column 1.
3 to 1. Author, Dr. G. Vanden Bossche, non-confidential, do copy, do distribute. Univic, strictly confidential, June 2016, -8 increasing COV infection rates promote enhancement of innate immune suppression in NACs, more susceptible to disease. Susceptibility rate in NACs suffices to compensate for long enough, until AgSpec, AB titers in non-NICs drop. Virus can replenish replication capacity. Non-NICs NACs 1-2. Author, Dr. G. Vanden Bossche, non-confidential, do copy, do distribute. Loss of viral replication capacity. Compensatory increase in viral replication capacity. Univic, strictly confidential, June 2016, -9 containment measures and vaccination of NACs jeopardize capacity for viral replication. Abrogation of viral infection at an early stage of infection is the virus' secret weapon to ensure its own perpetuation while leaving the door open for increasing its infectiousness when infection rates drop. Since virus replication in NACs is under control of innate immune system, the virus can compensate for loss of replication transmission capacity by enhancing infectiousness through selective immune escape. Viral infectiousness in NACs suffices to compensate for long enough, until AgSpec, AB titers in non-NICs drop. Author, Dr. G. Vanden Bossche, non-confidential, do copy, do distribute. Univic, strictly confidential, June 2016, -10 But what if these AB titers don't drop? Study AgSpec, AB titers, vaccination in non-NICs will result in further increase in viral infectiousness in NACs, until return on escape mutations in non-NICs becomes relatively more profitable for the virus. RBD-specific escape mutations enable virus to rebuild sufficient capacity for viral replication in non-NICs. The resulting immune escape variants are now resistant to the vaccine. Author, Dr. G. Vanden Bossche, non-confidential, do copy, do distribute. Univic, strictly confidential, June 2016, -11 increasing infection/seropositivity rates in NACs and non-NICs promote immune escape. Enhanced infection rates lead to increased rates of transient seropositivity in NACs. Seropositivity suppresses innate immunity because AG-specific ABS outcompete NAbs for binding to COV and prevent training of innate immune system. 1. Selective, innate Immunoscape and NAX2. Increased infectiousness 3. Selective, adapt, Immunoscape and non-NICS. Author, Dr. G. Vanden Bossche, non-confidential, do copy, do distribute Univic, strictly confidential, June 2016, 12 Strange observations during ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Untypical course/waves of pandemic, emergence of several much more infectious strains, viral shedding, of more infectious variants, in fully vaccinated subjects. Selective, S/RBD, protein-directed, Immunoscape S, spike protein RBD, receptor binding domain. Author, Dr. G. Vanden Bossche, non-confidential, do copy, do distribute Univic, strictly confidential, June 2016, 13 Mass containment measures and mass vaccination in NACS accelerates innate immunoscape, whereas mass vaccination of non-NICS accelerates innate and adaptive immunoscape. Innate immunoscape, NACS, high infectiousness, variants, adaptive immunoscape, non-NICS, vaccination non-NICS containment +++ new CoV vaccination NACS if needed. Both NACS and non-NICS can serve as a potential source of immunoscape upon human intervention in natural CoV pandemic. Author, Dr. G. Vanden Bossche, non-confidential, do copy, do distribute +1. Author, G. Vanden Bossche, DVM, PhD, February 26, 2021. Page 1. Immediate cancellation of all ongoing COVID-19 mass vaccination campaigns should now become the most acute health emergency of international concern. Executive summary. See also slide appended on p.6 below. The manuscript, which is now in the process of being finalized, should shed some light on how the virus and especially its interaction with the host immune system determines the natural course, that is, without human intervention, of a coronavirus, CoV, pandemic. The interplay between host immune defense and viral immunoscape determines the course of a natural CoV pandemic, including a natural COVID-19 pandemic. In the clinic, viral immunoscape is known to occur when the neutralizing capacity of serum antibodies, ABS, does not suffice to fully eliminate highly mutable viruses, for example, CoV, for lack of their concentration or affinity. In a CoV pandemic setting, seroconversion occurs against a background of high infectious pressure and is, therefore, prone to promote viral immunoscape. The first wave of disease 1, and mortality, primarily affects elderly people, or otherwise immunocompromised subjects. Selective, that is, adaptive, immunoscape is expected to cause this wave to transition into a more severe, second wave in younger age groups. Subsequently, non-selective, that is, innate, as well as selective immunoscape operated by increasingly infectious viral variants will trigger a third wave. The latter would primarily affect subjects who recovered from disease they contracted during the first wave, as their seroneutralizing ABS do no longer properly match the new circulating viral variants. This third wave of disease, and mortality, would come to an end when those who recovered from the disease will have mounted new functional ABS against these immunoscape variants, as seroconversion in this population will now occur much faster, due to recall of cross-reactive T helper memory cells, and as the majority of the young and middle-aged population will either be seronegative or have seroconverted already by the time the third wave starts to expand, chances are slim for the virus to escape the host sub-response. Asymptomatic 2. Seronegative individuals, that is, the vast majority of young and middle-aged people, may spread virus upon reinfection and hence, constitute a relevant source of viral transmission. However, CoV infection in these asymptomatic carriers is abrogated after a short period of viral shedding. Viral clearance in these subjects is likely to occur through activation of NK cells. The latter are capable of recognizing CoV-associated, antigen, agnon-specific patterns on the surface of CoV-infected epithelial target cells. As killing by NK cells is, therefore, not AG-specific and as seroconversion 1 for the purpose of the manuscript, disease refers to severe COVID-19 disease with involvement of lower respiratory airways 2 for the purpose of the manuscript. Asymptomatic infection refers to CoV infection which does not cause clinically relevant symptoms or only causes a mild level of disease, that is, only involving upper respiratory airways 2. Author, Geert Vanden Bossche, DVM, PhD, February 26, 2021. Page 2. In asymptomatically infected subjects is only short-lived. Viral immune escape does not normally occur. Consequently, new, more infectious variants are unlikely to emerge from this population as long as viral infectiousness does not dramatically increase. At the point of no immune escape, the pandemic will be under control and merge into an endemic infection. However, as long as the point of no immune escape isn't reached, any additional immune selection pressure, for example as a result of suboptimal concentration or affinity of AG-specific, for example, spike protein-specific, ABS, will allow the virus to rapidly unfold more infectious, immune escape variants. Additional immune selection pressure, especially when exerted during the second wave of a COVID pandemic, is likely to precipitate and amplify viral immune escape. This might even cause the second and third wave to merge into a single huge wave of mortality and disease that affects all layers of the population, possibly, with the exception of small children, especially mass vaccination campaigns, particularly when conducted in the midst of a pandemic, are prone to exerting enormous immune pressure on circulating virus strains. This is because the vaccine is used in an increasingly infectious context, as escape variants are more infectious. Mass vaccination campaigns will accelerate the emergence of even more infectious immune escape variants. This because the number of vaccine recipients who seroconvert within a given time period will dramatically increase. 3. In addition, AG-specific, high-affinity ABS induced by any of the current vaccines will outcompete natural, broadly protective mucosal M antibodies, as the latter only bind with low affinity to the receptor binding domain of CoV, RBD. This will particularly affect natural resistance of younger age groups which, thanks to a well-trained innate immune system, resisted disease during the first wave. The new circulating CoV variants may now even be able to escape the host's CoV variant nonspecific line of immune defense at the mucosal portal of entry. These age groups may, therefore, become more susceptible to symptomatic infection and shedding caused by more infectious variants. But mass vaccination campaigns will also have severe consequences for those who got vaccinated first, mostly the elderly or people with underlying disease or those who are otherwise immunocompromised. In the highly likely event that mass vaccination will soon result in antiviral resistance, see below, these people will have no single bit of immunity left to rely upon. In contrast to the infectious circulating virus, current vaccines do either not contain any critical killer cell motif or fail to activate dedicated killer cells. It goes, therefore, without saying that vaccine-induced immune responses will inevitably result in a dramatic enhancement of morbidity and mortality rates in all of the human population, except for small children. The real-like naturally infected subjects, vaccine recipients need time to mount a full-fledged AG-specific AB response. 3. Author, Geert Vanden Bossche, DVM, PhD, February 26, 2021. Page 3. Further to all of the above, low exposure to circulating CoV strains, for example, due to stringent containment measures, will increasingly weaken innate mucosal immunity for lack of training. Again, this is particularly relevant for those who, thanks to their sufficient and adequate innate immune defense, got away with asymptomatic infection during the first wave. Stringent and widespread infection prevention measures are now increasingly compromising their innate immunity and rendering them more susceptible to symptomatic infection. Especially the younger age groups may, therefore, end up with relatively higher morbidity and mortality rates, even regardless of the emergence of more infectious viral variants. This is to say that broadly implemented infection prevention measures will only amplify the already detrimental consequences of ongoing mass vaccination campaigns. It is reasonable to assume that the combination of non-selective and selective immune escape will cause morbidity and mortality rates in younger age groups to explode. See figure attached on p.6 below. The more COVID-19 vaccination campaigns in the young and middle age groups will be delayed, that is, relative to their initiation in the elderly, the more they will enhance morbidity and mortality rates in this group. By the time mass vaccination campaigns are about to start in the young and middle-aged groups, a substantial number of these people will already have been infected with COVID-19. Enhanced rates of infection by highly infectiousness viral variants have now significantly increased the likelihood for them to become reinfected while being in the process of seroconverting. So, by the time vaccinations will be initiated, viral immune escape in this group may already be fueling a vicious circle of enhanced viral infectiousness resulting in more seroconversion and hence, more immune escape. Mass vaccination campaigns in this group will only dramatically deteriorate the situation as they will lead to a fast and massive increase in the number of asymptomatic subjects that are in the process of seroconverting against a highly infectious background and, therefore, are prone to promoting viral immune escape. As there is naturally no reason for them to isolate, there will be plenty of opportunity for the highly infectious circulating strains to replicate in the presence of suboptimal lab titers and, therefore, to escape the host's immune control. Hence, the more vaccination campaigns in this group get delayed, the more selection of even more infectious viral variants will be expedited. The ensuing exponential increase in viral immune escape rates will ultimately enable viral variants to even break through vaccine-mediated protection in the vaccinated elderly, as their ABS increasingly mismatch the ever more infectious emerging variants. They will no longer manage to control viral replication and shedding and rapidly allow for massive viral immune escape, because seroprotective ABS primarily confer protection through targeting COVID-19's RBD. The virus will now increasingly select mutations in this particular part of the spike protein as those most readily enable the virus to escape vaccine-induced ABS. This will inevitably precipitate resistance to the vaccine, as for author, Geert Vanden Bossche, DVM, PhD, February 26, 2021. Page 4. A result of mass vaccination, people who got the vaccine first will suddenly no longer be protected and, despite vaccination, fall prey to a wave of catastrophic morbidity and mortality. There can, therefore, be no doubt that current vaccination strategies are rendering the impact of mass vaccination campaigns even more catastrophic and only adding to the magnitude of a pending global health disaster.
So, of course, it is clear they've never tested the long-term effects of these vaccines. Bill Gates himself mentioned we've never created a new vaccine in less than 5 years. And it's about, according to the mainstream media, a mild virus with a high recovery rate and a low mortality rate. So these things have to be investigated, and it's possibly a very important letter to the WHO. So let's continue reading.
However, mass vaccination.
Also, I think there's no good reason not to keep track of all people who died from COVID-19 if they had a vaccine. That's also much easier to do thanks to the COVID pass, the health passports that keep track of whether a person was vaccinated or not. So then that's very easy to do. An anonymous database that registers of all COVID-19 deaths if they had a vaccine or not.
Also harms individual health as vaccine-induced variant-specific ABS will outcompete natural variant non-specific mucosal ABS for binding to covariants and thereby deprive individuals from their broadly protective natural lifeline of immune defense, as large-scale vaccination campaigns combined with the sustained implementation of several containment measures will only expedite the occurrence of viral escape mutations. The illusory hope that current COVID-19 vaccines could generate herd immunity should once and for all be thrown overboard. Along the same line of reasoning, it is not unthinkable that COVID-19 will, once again, cross species barriers. One can definitely not rule out that with growing immune-mediated selection of virus variants, COVID-19 is ultimately going to be able to jump to other animal species, especially industrial livestock, for example, intensive pig and poultry farms with high stocking density, these species are already known to host several different coronaviruses and to variability/mutations in the very same spike protein, and particularly in the RBD, are known to be responsible for shifts in host tropism/susceptibility. Similar to the situation with influenza virus, these animal species could then constitute a reservoir for SARS-CoV-2 virus. Depending on the prevalence of circulating animal coverses in those farms, and hence, the level of trained immunity, those animals could now serve as asymptomatic carriers, thereby constituting a serious threat to humans. Conclusion: the combination of mass vaccination and infection prevention measures is a recipe for a global health disaster. Following the science, one has to conclude that all age groups, possibly with the exception of small children, will be heavily affected and subject to rates of morbidity and mortality that rise much faster and much higher than those expected to occur during the natural course of a COVID pandemic. This will particularly apply if the sequence of mass vaccinations following the first infectious wave parallels that of natural infection, that is, immunocompromised people and elderly first, followed by the younger age groups. No one, for that matter, should be granted a right to implement large-scale pharmaceutic and non-pharmaceutic immune interventions, especially not during a viral pandemic, and certainly not without an in-depth understanding of the immune pathogenesis of a viral pandemic. When one follows the science, and nothing but the science, it becomes extremely difficult to not label 5 author, Geert Vanden Bossche, DVM, PhD, February 26, 2021, page 5. Ongoing mass vaccination campaigns as a crime, not only to public health but also to individual health. To substantiate the reasoning above, the manuscript will first explain how components of the innate immune system can protect against COVID-19 and render infections asymptomatic. It will then go on to explain in more detail why and how, in an immunologically COVID-19 naive population, selective, that is, adaptive, immune escape shifts the first wave of disease and death from the elderly, and immunocompromised, subjects to those who at the outset of the pandemic got away with asymptomatic infection, that is, the younger and middle-aged population segment. Similarly, it will be explained how accelerated viral immune escape in the asymptomatically infected population finally shifts back the burst of morbidity and mortality to the elderly, and how the population eventually controls the pandemic by controlling viral immune escape. This will already illustrate the critical importance of desiccating the changing contribution of innate and adaptive immunity to the population's overall immune defense against a viral pandemic. Understanding these dynamics helps to comprehend the sophisticated course of a natural COVID pandemic, how it eventually merges into an endemic infection, and why human intervention has a highly detrimental impact on the refined interplay between the virus and its host. In regard of the latter, the devastating global health impact of ongoing mass vaccination campaigns and accompanying stringent and widespread containment measures will be explained in more detail, as the global and individual health consequences could simply be unbearable for many years to come. After the introductory section on innate immune defense mechanisms relevant to COVID-19, other relevant topics will be addressed in form of questions and answers. Last, a section will be dedicated to the scientific rationale for using NK cell-based vaccines that could provide sterilizing immunity and hence, wipe out COVID-19 and related variants altogether. 6 Author, Geert Vanden Bossche, DVM, PhD, February 26, 2021, page 6. The natural course of a COVID pandemic is controlled by the population's innate and adaptive immunity and dramatically aggravated by antibody-based vaccines when used in mass vaccination campaigns conducted in the course of the pandemic and flanked by stringent containment measures. Natural asymptomatic
NK cells are indeed natural killer cells.
Carrier. For the purpose of this manuscript, NAC is defined as a subject disposing upon a level of innate immunity high enough to resist disease. Non-NAC. For the purpose of this manuscript, non-NAC is defined as a subject who is not endowed with a level of innate immunity high enough to be able to resist disease when exposed to infectious virus during the first wave. Vaccine resistance. 7 Author, Geert Vanden Bossche, DVM, PhD, February 26, 2021, page 7.
So here we can read natural killer cells, also known as NK cells, or large granular lymphocytes, are a type of cytotoxic lymphocyte critical to the innate immune system that belong to the rapidly expanding family of innate lymphoid cells and represent 5 to 20% of all circulating lymphocytes in humans. Okay, back to geertvandebossche.org, because I wanted to read that other document, the key document on mass vaccination and immune escape, response to critics. I can open it in a new tab. Okay.
Why do COVID-19 mass vaccinating campaigns promote dominance of selective immune escape variants? Geert Vanden Bossche mass vaccinating campaigns can substantially reduce infection rates and hence, the emergence of new viral variants. So, enhancement of vaccinating campaigns should be able to prevent circulating of additional variants. Why is this simplistic postulate fundamentally wrong? First, in order for emerging more infectious variants to enhance their potency and become well established, they must adapt to the suboptimal immune pressure they escaped from. To adapt viruses to grow at high infectors under suboptimal conditions, it is critical to passage the virus repeatedly under the same stress conditions. Likewise, repeated person-to-person transmission of a highly mutable virus under similarly selective, suboptimal immune pressure would enable training of selected immune escape variants. This will ultimately result in adaptation of the viral variant and thereby enable full-fledged replicating under conditions which initially restricted its replicating. All more infectious SARS-CoV-2 variants are characterized by mutations that are directed at spike S protein, herein called S variants. Selection of S-directed mutations enables enhanced binding of these variants to the ACE2 cell receptor. By virtue of their enhanced binding to cell, selection of S-directed mutations enables enhanced binding of these variants to the ACE2 cell receptor.
I don't know why the text-to-speech engine is not reading out the letter I in this article. Selection of S-directed mutations enables enhanced binding of these variants to the ACE2 cell receptor. So I'm just going to continue reading it. Perhaps it has to do with macros or something, the font or whatever. And people can read the text along on the screen, so then it's not a big problem.
By virtue of their enhanced binding to cell receptors on respiratory epithelial cells, S variants are able to overcome limitations in infectiousness imposed by S-specific antibodies, ABS. In the absence of infection prevention measures or mass vaccinating campaigns, spontaneously occurring S variants have no opportunity to compete with circulating wild virus as there is no selective immune pressure mechanism promoting their adaptation into the human host. In case of de novo infection of a seroconverted populatin with SARS-CoV-2, there is no selective immune pressure that could promote replication and propagation of immune escape S variants. In case subjects have previously been primed as a result of infection with wild-type SARS-CoV-2, their later exposure to variant S antigen, S, will recall a strong response mounted by ABS that effectively recognize both S and S. https://science.scienceamag.org/content/early/2021/03/science.tab9175. Lastly, subjects who are in the process of seroconversion as a result of coronavirus, CoV, infection will not be susceptible to reinfection by another CoV due to antiviral innate immunity. So, in none of the above-mentioned cases do S variants have an opportunity to repeatedly replicate and propagate under suboptimal selective immune pressure. This is to say that under conditions of natural infection, adaptation of S selective immune escape variants does not usually occur. This seems to be confirmed by the results from virus characterization on archival autopsy samples from subjects who succumbed to influenza during the pandemic of 1918. Samples isolated during the second, most severe, wave did not indicate any contribution from variant strains. https:/www.nlm.nih.gov/pmc/articles/pmc3291398/. One suboptimal conditions occur when the virus is, for example, inoculated on host cells that are not usually permissive to the virus, or when it is grown on cell culture at suboptimal temperature or in the presence of sub-neutralizing antibodies. Author, Geert Vanden Bossche, DVM, PhD, March 31, 2021, www.geertvandenbossche.org. In case of mass vaccination, however, there is plenty of opportunity for spontaneously occurring S variants to experience selective immune pressure. Mass vaccination campaigns will cause large, not previously primed cohorts of the population to seroconvert against S protein and to even maintain suboptimal ABS for quite some time. For example, in those waiting for the second dose of a two-shot vaccine, while being exposed to spontaneously emerging viral variants. Such cohorts include people who have not previously been infected at all, as well as subjects who have been asymptomatically infected and only exhibited short-lived abtors, presumably due to lack of adequate priming. https://www.medRxiv.org/content/10.11012020.12.18.202484447v1. https://www.nature.com/articles/S413920210052553. Mass vaccination of vulnerable groups does not abrupt viral transmission chains but increasingly redirects transmission events to asymptomatic carriers, that is, vaccinated subjects as well as not yet vaccinated young and healthy people, several of whom experienced asymptomatic infection without mounting long-lived abtors too. As ongoing mass vaccination campaigns are shifting the reservoir of viral transmission to asymptomatically infected subjects, whether vaccinated or not, the likelihood.
So, he linked to a nature.com article, and this is another one that I add: antibody-dependent enhancement and SARS-CoV-2 vaccines and therapies. And then at the bottom of this nature.com article we can read: steps to reduce the risk of antibody-dependent enhancement from immunotherapies include the induction or delivery of high doses of potent neutralizing antibodies rather than lower concentrations of non-neutralizing antibodies that would be more likely to cause antibody-dependent enhancements.
For unvaccinated, previously asymptomatically infected subjects to experience reinfection with SARS-CoV-2 while being endowed with suboptimal and short-lived anti-ABS substantially increases. This is to say that within the population that is now most actively involved in viral transmission, new, spontaneously emerging S variants have plenty of opportunity to train under suboptimal immune pressure, such as to ultimately adapt to the human host and become part of the dominant circulating SARS-CoV-2 population. This is how, for initial breeding of selected viral variants as a direct result of infection prevention measures subsequent mass vaccination campaigns will drive enhanced circulation of additional, more infectious viral S variants. Training of such more infectious immune escape variants is thought to be reflected by the plateau that follows the vaccine-mediated decline in cases and the height of which exceeds the one following the previous wave of cases. As mass vaccination campaigns have started in the vulnerable population, not only vaccinated subjects but also not yet vaccinated younger age groups will become a breeding ground for new infectious variants. There can be no doubt that continued mass vaccination campaigns will enable new, more infectious viral variants to become increasingly dominant and ultimately result in a dramatic incline in new cases despite enhanced vaccine coverage rates, there can be no doubt either that this situation will soon lead to complete resistance of circulating variants to the current vaccines. This is certainly not what would be expected by those who claim that enhanced and accelerated mass vaccination is going to diminish circulation of new dominant variants and will, therefore, further reduce viral infection rates and fatal morbidity and mortality curves. Too, it is possible, but not proven, that especially subjects with increased COVID-19-specific NAbs, for example as a result of previous exposure to SARS-CoV-2 during the FRST wave, will develop S-specific KBS that are short-lived and not fully mature.
Okay. So we can all wonder about antibody-dependent enhancement after viral mutation. What they think about it themselves. I'm working on something. Okay. So, it's pretty scientific, but I think with the internet people can check everything for themselves, what it all means. And we can wonder about antibody-dependent enhancement after viral mutation. Innate immunity will be gone. Some claim driving viral immune escape, preventing natural herd immunity. Long-term effects have never been tested. The antibody kills the type 2 macrophages, and the risk that people will die from the vaccine is a lot higher than the risk of dying from COVID-19. Is this true or false? What are your ideas about this, and what can we do about all this with legal measures or letters, or what can we, the people, do for Geert Vanden Bossche and others who have warned about this? Well, at least the letter is sent to the WHO. The videos are online, and I think they're on lots of platforms and spreading very fast around the globe. And I think this is all scientifically proven, so it's based on solid science. It's not some weird conspiracy theory. And Mr. Vanden Bossche worked for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and these vaccine companies. He's also a doctor of veterinary medicine, I think. DVM, I'd have to Google that, what that means. I was wondering about it. Anyway, thank you, Mr. Vanden Bossche, for warning the WHO and the world about a potential disaster. And of course, people have the right to be informed about these matters, to make an informed decision about this vaccine, of which the long-term effects have never been tested, all over what the mainstream media calls a mild virus with a high recovery rate and a low death rate. So, I want to leave it at this. For now, I can look if there are any interesting chat remarks. If I can find my live stream thing. A lot of tabs open. Oh yeah, there are some questions, perhaps. Dr. E. Vales, that's what I thought. Hi. Voynitz writes, Doctor, will you see me now? Are you gonna see me now? Dr. E. Vales, say ah. Swollen A, with the tongue emoji. 6 feet, USOB, writes Dr. E. Vales. Voynich, doctor, I don't need to see your tonsils. Dr. E. Vales, okay, now, drop your pants. Nurse, grab the swabs. Finger pointing at a donut. Oh yeah, the free donuts. I've heard about that. For the vaccinated people. Dr. Evales, I'm a doctor on YouTube. Trust me. Dr. G was 2 doctors ahead of me. Laughing emoji. I've never trusted Dr. D. Vales. Shouldn't that be Viles? I don't know. Something about that name I don't like. Well, thank you all for your comments. Links are welcome. People can Skype me, Prologic999 on Skype. My green screen isn't optimal at the moment. Sunshine. So the lighting is not optimal. It's better when it comes from the front, as you can see in some of my other broadcasts. So please spread this important video. Thank you all for watching. Kiss for single ladies who would like one. And Fox News reported that adequate vitamin D levels could have prevented 9 out of 10 COVID-19 deaths. So that's something to read as well. And more about how to curb the spread, how to prevent this virus from spreading. And also about the fact that there is a Nobel Prize winner, Minister Muller, and others who claim that the measures will kill a lot more people than the virus pandemic itself. More about all this on my channel Perfect Society right here on YouTube. So thank you all for watching. May peace be with you all. Please like, share and subscribe and spread the important videos for a better timeline future for humanity. Save the maximum number of human lives, create a perfect society in which we all will live happily eternally. Possible because everything is energy, everything is a possibility. Breathing is also good. There's some sunshine, so I'm going into the sun for vitamin D production and to break down cyanide. And I hope to be back soon with another broadcast on Perfect Society. So be sure to check in, and if you're subscribed then you'll be notified. Be sure to hit that bell icon, and click on all, basically, so that you always get a message and not just if the YouTube selection warns you about a new video that I've made. That's it for now. See you all next time on Perfect Society. I'm Ulrich Hofmann. Thank you, Dr. Vanden Bossche. And I hope he is successful and that calamity can be prevented thanks to his letter to the WHO. So I think it's a matter of urgency and important matter. So I couldn't not upload this to YouTube, basically. I think it's too important. And I have a proper disclaimer in this video. And, well, it's clearly all based on science. And if people want to have a debate about this, people can Skype Prologic999 and check his website. He also has a Twitter page. And I can put the links in the description also to the other articles that I've covered now. So that's what I'm going to do next. See you next time on Perfect Society. Over and out.